there isn't a lot of vegan bodybuilders willing to get on stage. I think getting on the stage speaks at a different level because there's still so many people that say, oh, well, you might be able to build, muscle on a vegan diet, but there's no vegan Mr. Olympia.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan from Aethix Fitness, and this is Season 3 of the Aethix Approach podcast, the podcast where we highlight incredible vegan athletes, nutritionists, and other influential and inspiring vegans in the community and find out what they do to absolutely kill it on a plant-based diet. If you haven't already, please give us a follow anywhere you're listening to this, and feel free to check out the other content I'm producing on aethixfitness.com, including the Aethix coaching services, merch, articles, free training programs, and YouTube videos. Also, feel free to check out my personal fitness Instagram at TofuStrong for more podcast updates and additional content. Creating content like this is a huge passion of mine, and I greatly appreciate any support along those lines. All of my links will be in the description, and thank you so incredibly much for all of the continued love and support. In this episode, I'm thrilled to welcome a guest who represents a prime example of dedication, discipline, and purpose in fitness, Joe Vijay. As a natural vegan bodybuilder, Joe's journey is an incredible testament to the power of commitment, not only to his sport, but also to his values. In this episode, Joe shares his inspiring journey of his pursuit of achieving a pro card as a vegan natural bodybuilder. We'll dive into his athletic beginnings, his evolution as a lifter, and the pivotal moment that led him to pursue bodybuilding seriously. Joe also breaks down his training methodologies and how they've developed over the years, offering invaluable insights into what it takes to excel as a natural athlete. We'll explore Joe's competition history and hear firsthand about the physical and psychological challenges of staying contest lean over an extended period. Plus, he shares his perspective on his particular style of training, the influences that have shaped his journey, and how he's using his physique to advocate for veganism within the fitness world. Looking ahead, Joe opens up about his future goals, not just in bodybuilding, but also in his personal projects and business endeavors. For anyone looking to transition to a plant-based diet while staying strong and competitive in fitness, Joe's advice is an absolute must-hear. Throughout our conversation, we cover a wide range of topics, including the importance of rest and recovery, the power of genetics, and trends in the bodybuilding world. Whether you're a seasoned lifter, someone new to the gym, or just looking for inspiration, this episode is packed with actionable takeaways and motivational moments. Without further ado, let's get into it with the incredible Joe Vijay. All right, what's up, guys? This is Ryan with the Aethix Approach podcast, and today I'm joined by Joe, and honestly, I don't even know how to say your last name for sure yet. Is it Vijay?
Vijay. Vijay, you got it.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
It's actually Vijay, but we tell people in the UK it's just easier to say Vijay. So go Vijay.
Cool. All right, cool. I feel good that I got it then. All right, so Joe is a natural vegan bodybuilder. He's been competing recently, and Joe is just fucking shredded, dude. Like, he is jacked and shredded, an amazing icon of bodybuilding on a vegan diet and what you can accomplish on a vegan diet. I'll kick it back to Joe to give a quick little intro about him, a little elevator pitch. So, Joe, if you want to take it away from here, man.
First off, I'm no longer shredded. Honestly, I rebound hard when I stop. It's probably not the best thing to do, but it's what's happened. But yeah, so okay, my name's Joe. I'm a vegan bodybuilder from the UK. I am the youngest of 6 kids, 5 of us brothers, and I've got 1 sister. So I'm half Indian. My dad's Indian, and my mum is British. As a job, I'm an accountant. Probably not the best accountant, but I am one. But yeah, so I'm also from a small city called Gloucester in the UK. So quite a quiet place to live. Not really a lot goes on here. And if anything does, it's probably not for good things. It's not really like a good rap that Gloucester has, but it's home. So yeah, and there's not really too much else to say about myself except I'm a vegan. Obviously, I've got a real passion for bodybuilding. I love to compete, but I also like to kind of watch bodybuilding as well, natural and enhanced. I love all of it. So I've got like a real passion for it. So it's not just me doing it myself. I'm fully in. So I'll watch the Olympia. I'll also watch the natural Olympia. I was supposed to go to the WNBF Worlds myself this year, but I'll still be keeping an eye, even though I've pulled out. I'll get into that later. It was for health reasons I pulled out, but I can get into that later. But yeah, that's pretty much it about me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so let's get into it from the beginning, man. What led you to lifting in the first place? Because I feel like a lot of natural dudes who like have great success, they have a sport background. So I'm curious right off the bat, like, did you do anything athletic as a kid? Like, what led you to lifting?
So I wouldn't say sport led me to lifting,
Hmm.
but I've always liked to play football and basketball. Not so much watching it. It's a bit of a weird one. Like I love the sport and I appreciate what goes into it, especially when they are professional athletes doing it. I appreciate like all the professional football clubs. But at the same time, I don't know why I just don't find it that interesting to watch. But I do love
Hmm.
to play, or at least I used to. Um, so football and basketball were my main games back when I was at school. Like I'm talking that long ago. It never really carried on once I left school. So it was football first, and then it kind of moved into basketball. And I think that's partly to do with uh, kind of the friendship group I fell into. So I had a lot of Filipino friends at school. And funnily enough, because like I kind of look a bit Filipino, so I kind of just blended in with them, and they all just embraced me. So yeah, I learned to play basketball and tried my best to get good at it. I got reasonably good. Wish I was better at shooting. I was more good at dribbling with the ball and maneuvering. That was my sort of thing. I used to love it.
Hmm.
But yeah, basketball I'd say was the last sport I played properly. Did play a
Uh-huh.
little bit for the school, but like I say, it never really went past school. And as soon as I left school, I kind of went straight to work. And
Sure.
bodybuilding came whilst I was at school also, though. So what got me into bodybuilding was really my dad. My dad was into bodybuilding when he was younger. He never took it very fast. My dad's Indian and he born and raised there as well, so he grew up there and he was quite poor. So they were
Hmm.
from a poor background, so they didn't really have like money for like food and the education to go along with it. But he would go to the gym and train hard, and
Hmm.
he had a reasonably lean physique. So like I've seen a picture of him back in the day. Actually, physique wise, it was almost identical to me. It was quite weird to look at because obviously
Wow.
you'll know you're into bodybuilding. People who are genetically similar or
Yeah.
structurally similar, there'll be like subtle differences here and there of like, oh, his chest is shaped like that or his arms are shaped like that. It was almost like
Uh-huh.
looking at my body. It was kind of weird. So
So
my dad
weird.
was into it, but he never took it really anywhere because he just didn't have I guess, the facilities, the money to really take it there or the knowledge. But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
my eldest brother kind of adopted that sort of passion. He didn't last long in it really. He did it for a few years and then kind of fizzled out.
Hmm.
But then he kind of taught all of us brothers. So like I said earlier, there's five of us boys.
Hmm.
Um, and it kind of just taught us all, and we all kind of, as we grew of age to kind of start lifting,
Yeah.
that's how we all got into it. So it was like my eldest brother did it, next brother did it, and they were all in shape. So it was like
Hmm.
it was like you couldn't not be influenced. All your older brothers are looking a certain way. And then you'd
Yeah.
also have girls at school saying, "Oh, is that your brother? Oh, your brother's so fit." And like you'd
Yeah.
be like, "I need to do this. I need to get in shape. I can't have this guy taking all the attention from me because he's in shape." It was like that was sort of the motivation. And it's a bit cliche, but obviously in the beginning you think the women are going to love it. And
Yeah.
actually it turns out they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might initially like the look of it, but ultimately it's personality that keeps them.
Yeah.
You can look good, but if you kind of got the chat, nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
so funny how it works like that.
it is funny. It might reel them in initially, like they might be, oh, you look nice, but if you just
Yeah.
then open your mouth and you're chatting all sorts of nonsense, game
Yeah.
over. It
Well,
does it,
yeah.
looking good helps, but yeah,
It's really funny because so many of us get into lifting to look better for girls or whatever, right? To get girls. And then, like, yeah, down the road, you're just like, you know what? Actually, this isn't that important, but it does give you a confidence boost in a way, right?
100%. Yeah, it does. Gives you like
Yeah.
a Yeah, it definitely gives. I'd say that's the word. It gives you a sense of confidence wherever you go, and I'd say it even follows you even in the professional world, even
Totally.
being in the office. Like, 'cause I'm an office worker. Um, just knowing that you're nice, big, strong, healthy gives you that sense of confidence. It's a weird thing, but it's nice to take that around everywhere with you.
Yeah.
So bodybuilding never leaves you. Whereas if you were to play football, no one knows you're a footballer unless they see you on the pitch. Whereas
Uh-huh.
bodybuilding, everyone knows what you are if you're a good one.
Yeah.
Or if you put the
If
time
if
in.
if your boss is yelling at you, you can just be like, "Yo, how much you bench, dude?"
So you just go,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember those. No, but yeah,
Reminder,
exactly.
reminder, buddy.
It's yeah, yeah. It's not obviously to that extreme, but yeah, it's one of those
Yeah, yeah,
really
totally.
weird things. It's just in the back of your mind, keeps you confident and believing in yourself a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that the principles in bodybuilding apply to so much of life. It doesn't end in the gym. I think it ends, well, it doesn't end it. You just carry the same principles everywhere.
Yeah.
There's something you want at work, you know the same thing. If you be consistent and persistent with what you want that promotion, keep grafting. If you do need to do a little bit of overtime, just to do that little bit of extra, you'll do it just to get your point across that you're keen. And also to get that extra productivity. It's like doing that extra set in the gym that you know is going to go a long way, or doing that extra rep when you know it's going to be a grafter. You could
Yeah.
leave it or you could take it.
Hmm.
And it just applies to anything. Obviously, it's probably not the best example with work, but it definitely does apply. Um,
Yeah. I
and
think that's a
it
great
changed my
example, man.
mindset for the good.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Like, I really agree, like, the work ethic of just being, like, consistent for years and really dedicated and putting in the work, it does transfer to so many other things. And I think that comparing it to the workplace is a great example, actually, because just because of that work ethic, it's like, it's not easy for people to get in the gym at first for a lot of people, right? Like, no one really is like, oh, I can't wait to get in the gym and do like these sets of squats or whatever at first. Like, I feel like it grows on you after time, but at first, like, it's pretty hard, man. Wouldn't you say?
Not nice actually at first. It's really
Yeah.
not nice. Like because you don't really know what's going to get you that result or if you're going to get it yet. Like you
Yeah.
don't know if you're going to look the way you want to look. So you're kind of just experimenting.
Hmm.
I remember my first arm workout back in the day, and I hope my brother probably won't like me saying this. But basically, my I'm the youngest of the five of us brothers. Obviously, I said there's six of us, but five brothers. And my brother, who is well, he's a year above me in school years.
Hmm.
Um, he also had his first session with me at home with just weights at home. By the way, that's how we started as well, just training at home with some free weights. Um, and he just didn't really try very hard. And I remember my other brother, so like Sam, he was 15 or 16. He was like, "Come on, Dave, what are you doing? Like, you can do better than that." He was really giving him crap.
Yeah.
And obviously it just kind of like you just said, it's because in the beginning it does hurt. It really hurts. And like I think as you get really deep into lifting, you forget that feeling because
Uh-huh.
it goes from being that sort of like you don't really look at it as pain anymore. You look at it as a burn, but a good burn, and you embrace it. But in the beginning, it's hard to learn to embrace that burn because you just think this was
Yeah.
awful. Like, what's nice
Yeah.
about that? And also the DOMs you get, the
Mhm.
soreness you get from those
So
first few
much
workouts
worse.
it's unreal. Yeah, it's like, and
Yeah.
you think, oh God, is this going to happen every time? And actually, no, it doesn't happen every time. You get a little bit
Uh-huh.
sore, but then your soreness will go within a day or two. But
Hmm.
in the beginning, it could be a week or even a little bit longer, especially with your legs, as you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Like in the beginning, it's so awful and it's not very encouraging, is it? When you feel like that and
Yeah.
you haven't seen the result that comes yet. And I think this is
Hmm.
where a lot of people fall off. They just think it's going to be like that all the time. They're like,
Hmm.
nah, this bodybuilding thing, this muscle soreness thing, it's not for me. And it's because
Yeah.
they haven't like gone back and given it another chance to come back stronger and
Hmm.
be less sore from the weights that did you over last week. It's like you do those same weights again the next week, it'd be a little bit less sore.
Yeah.
You might have took 5 days to recover last time, 6 days, and then the next week you go back and it's took you 3 days. Do it
Hmm.
again, same weights, it's took you 2 days, and before you know it, it's like, right, I'm
Yeah.
actually getting a bit more resilient now. I might as well chuck some more weight on.
Hmm.
But people don't like to get to that point.
Hmm.
They don't want to be consistent to that point, so they never see the
Yeah.
result. And then they say this thing's not for me, or oh Joe, you've just got the genetics.
Hmm.
No, I haven't got the genetics. I just really tried.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you said, you learn to enjoy it. I learned to enjoy it. Um, albeit I didn't learn to enjoy legs until my later days into bodybuilding. Now it's like the best day of the week
I
and I
agree with
can't
you.
wait. But back in
Totally
the day,
agree.
it was like the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you one of those bros who just like didn't really ever want to train legs, like they would skip the workouts and stuff?
I wouldn't skip it, but I would dread it to my core.
Yeah.
Like I'd
Yeah.
be genuinely like scared in a way because
Yeah.
the way leg training started for me, it started at home because we had free weights at home and I'd have one of those skinny bars and I'd probably squat a 10 kilo on each side and think, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's heavy weight. And actually it was only 30 kilos. And but it would make you like burn. We'd do sets of 20 plus. Do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
to utilize the weights.
Brutal.
The soreness you get from
Jeez.
that is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, But then when I was a little bit older, not too much older, I think maybe 2 years into
Hmm.
lifting, I went to my first gym, which was an old converted church or an old converted chapel. Really rusty weights, but like the environment was just like it's not this way anymore, and I wouldn't go back. But I won't talk
Uh-huh.
about that. But it used to have like a vibe in there, like, and I miss the vibe it used to have. Everyone was just training hard.
Yep.
And it was just where you wanted to be. You'd watch people training, like, I want to be like that, or people would give you that sort of spur to keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, like doing my first few leg sessions in there, the guy who owned it is an IFBB pro, and he'd been to
Uh-huh.
the Olympia once. I think he competed in, I think it was 202, the
Hmm.
weight cap at that point. So you had now it's 212. Yeah,
Okay.
two. I think it's 212 now. Or was it the other
Was
way?
this untested or was it like a natural organization?
Untested,
Okay.
untested. So the actual Olympia. So he went
Hmm.
to the Olympia back in the day. I think 2008, 2009.
Okay.
But point being, my eldest brother got a training program from him.
Hmm.
And of course, we all used it. So this
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like specifically for him, but we all
yeah.
just joined in and trained together.
Uh-huh.
And the leg workouts were still that same thing, same principle, high rep stuff, 20 rep sets of squats,
Oh my
followed
God.
by, and it was actually pretty brutal when I think about it. We used to do 5 sets of Smith squats,
Uh-huh.
20 reps,
Oh
five
my
sets.
God, dude.
That is too long. I can't do that now. I
20
mean, I could,
20
but that would be like
reps?
my one and only exercise, if I did that now. So
Dude,
yeah,
if
five
I
sets
do a
of
20
20.
rep set of squats, like I'm working up to that for like weeks and I'm doing one set and I'm fucking going
Yeah, it
home,
gets you
dude.
gets you toast, doesn't it?
Like all out set of 20 on like a barbell squats. I guess it's a Smith machine, right? But still, like, geez.
Yeah, the tension is too much. I mean, it's not. You can do it, but for 5 sets, I think that's where the issue was. I just don't think you
Yeah.
need that. So we'd do 5 sets, and then it weren't over. Then you'd move on to the leg
Hmm.
press, and then it would be like, right, we've got 4 sets on here now, and the same
Uh-huh.
thing up to 20 reps, and it was just like this is absolutely brutal. And then once that leg press was done, you'd be kind of relieved because right, that's all the hard stuff done. I'll go on to
Yeah,
the leg
yeah.
extension now and just sit and get a burn.
Uh-huh.
So, but that going back to the point, that is why I used to be scared of legs because that was my first impression of leg training.
Yeah.
So it was
Makes
very
sense.
off-putting. I'll be honest, it was so off-putting. And at the
Hmm.
time, I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I would
Oh,
tag
wow.
along with my brothers and go through it with them. We used to do
Okay.
it every Saturday morning. I remember my eldest brother would be like, "Right, boys, we're going for 10 o'clock." And fair play to him. He used to take me like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid. He used to take me with him, like, and my other brothers, and he'd even let us like have a. Back then, we weren't vegan. He would say, "Right, you can have a
Yeah.
protein scoop." He was only working himself, like his first job or whatever, or
Hmm.
second job. I don't know, remember, but it wasn't a lot of money, so it was kind of nice.
Hmm.
But yeah, anyway, that is why I used thread legs because that's how it all started. I don't train like that
Yeah.
anymore, and I've now learned to embrace it because I feel like my training is more effective now that I'm not
Yeah.
killing myself. I kill myself, but in a different way, with a lot less volume, more intensity.
Hmm.
Um, I would say a brutal amount of volume in legs
Yeah.
is probably more scary than one intense set. I will say that now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it just leaves you crippled the next day if you do a ton of volume.
Yeah.
But so you've been lifting ever since you've been 13 or 12 or 13? Is that right?
Well, I'd say, yeah, I think 13 properly. I think 12, I just
Wow.
started to like do sit-ups and some push-ups. And then when I was
Okay.
13, picked up my first set of dumbbells and started doing some curls and that. Yeah,
So you started early. Jeez.
I did. Yeah,
Was that was that mainly from the influence of your brothers? Not so much basketball, right?
100%,
At this point?
100%. Yeah, this was the influence of my
Hmm.
brothers. They were because we basically used to sleep in the same bedroom.
Yeah.
And all our weights and stuff were in there, and we used to play games in there. So we'd be having the PlayStation in there, we'd have the bench press in there, all our weights and stuff. So I'd be there playing games and stuff, but my brothers would all be lifting in the background. So I'd be
Yeah.
watching every now and then and like just taking note, or just, you just because they're your older brothers, you look up to them, and you're quite motivated by it as well. I think, oh, one day I can't wait until I'm allowed. And then the one day my brother's like, "Do you want me to train? Like, do you want to train?" I was like, "Well, he was
Yeah.
training." I think he was training my other brother, who they would just said was like the right age. So I was a little
Uh-huh.
bit younger than they normally would. But I was so keen, I was like, yeah, I want to join in. So I
Yeah.
did and didn't look back.
Dude, that's like my dream room. Just like a PlayStation, like a beanbag, and like a squat
Yeah,
rack. Like, holy
it was
shit.
good old days.
That's
There was
amazing.
no worries.
Um, so what I guess let's keep going on the line here. So you were you consistently lifting from then on? Or did you like take a break or anything?
Yeah, consistently going, to be honest with you. I would say,
Wow.
funnily enough, I do think there was a period. I'm trying to remember how long. I don't think it was very long, but there was a period where I didn't do legs all the
Mm-hmm.
time, mate. I think it was like a few weeks. And then
Uh-huh.
I was like, no, what am I doing? And I got myself back in, and that was it. Shortest time ever.
Just a few weeks.
When you
That's not
think a
bad
lot
at
of,
all. Yeah.
yeah, and I didn't know I was only a kid, not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of men nowadays who back out of leg day, so
Yeah. Yeah.
not too ashamed of it. I mean, it annoys me that I even quit back then. Like, I didn't quit, but like, I just, I thought it wasn't that important.
Yeah. Sure. So let's talk about your training. You kind of touched on it a little bit here, but like you started off with some pretty brutal training. It sounded like. I'm guessing it was like a body part split. How did that evolve over the years?
Yeah, so bro splits was the way we followed for, I'd say, the
Yeah.
first 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like you say, just split. So you do chest Monday, back Tuesday. Then you'd probably do, I think shoulder. I think we'd do arms or shoulders on the Wednesday, and then it would be on the Thursday, arms or shoulders again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you'd have legs on Friday, for example, and we would do that all the time, and it worked, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you. And I would still say it works now. It has drawbacks, but it does work.
Yeah.
And then I switched to more of a upper lower split. This was after I went vegan, actually, just to trial it, just to
Uh-huh.
see. I finally started becoming a bit more open-minded to the fact that we
Yep.
might not be 100% right, because we used
Yep.
to kind of preach on our bro splits. That was our way, and we're like, that works, it works, so don't change it.
Yeah. Same.
And by the time I jumped away from bro splits and gave another upper lower split a try, it was sort of the same time my brothers started fizzling out. They all
Uh-huh.
kind of started doing their other hobbies or moving on to other things.
Mm-hmm.
So actually now there's only me and my one brother who are full time doing bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
If my other brothers are doing it, they are doing it under the radar because they don't talk to me about it very much. So I'm going to say they're not doing it, but they might be. So I'm saying that in case they listen to this podcast. I don't want to say that they're not training,
Yeah.
but actually they might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, me and my brother, who's like a year older, year and a half older than me, he's also vegan as well.
Okay.
Um, we often train together. We're very similar sized. But shortly after I went vegan, I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
see what else I can do. So I tried the upper lower split.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more of a power split as well. So it was like I had a power day, like for my upper and a power day for my lower, and then I'd go back to like hypertrophy upper lower. But I found it a
Okay.
little bit boring, and there was something about it I just didn't like very much. And then I moved on to push pull legs.
Uh-huh.
I kind of didn't really look back after that because I just thought, you know what, the pumps I'm getting now, like this, like the push pump, oh, it looks so good. The pull pump, it looks really good. And then legs is just
Yeah.
legs, like you always love that. And it allows you to split your legs up, into ham, glute dominant day, quad
Yep.
dominant day. And obviously you just alternate your push pull as well. So you can have like a pull day where prioritize a row. You'll have
Uh-huh.
a push day where you prioritize an overhead press, or you'll have a chest press prioritized on the next one. So you can always switch it. So it's not like that's your fixed day,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to do the same. And then another favorite split. So I tried this one, and I'm tempted to go back at some point.
Uh-huh.
But obviously we touched on JP earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so he would do his sort of, I don't know what he actually calls it, but I think he was calling it like density split or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you'd have like you'd have like a leg day, you'd have push pull, then you'd have what's called a density day, where it was basically like your posterior chain. So like you do your deadlifts, and you do maybe the rest of the back of your legs, like your glutes, your hams, and then
Mm-hmm.
you'd hit some back as well. So it
Mm-hmm.
was all the back of your body basically just
Uh-huh.
get absolutely toast. And that turned out to be my favorite day of the week because I fell in love with deadlifting. Um,
Yeah.
and the same with like anything posterior chain, I'm like just training my back. That's the sort of thing where if you're a natural lifter, if you've got an impressive back, that's when people start questioning your natural status. I
Yeah.
truly believe that. And obviously doing heavy deadlifts, heavy rows, they also make your traps grow a lot as well.
Yep.
Which is also another thing that makes people think, you must be on, because how do you get traps like that without taking juice? It's like,
Yep.
do your deadlift, do your heavy rows,
100%.
and
100%,
it
dude.
and it shows.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with that. So I did that for like almost a year, and then
Mm-hmm.
I only stopped it when I went into prep because I thought it would be too fatiguing. In
Yeah. Yeah.
hindsight, I think it was a silly move. I think I should have stayed with it. What
Mm-hmm.
built it will sustain it. That's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of principle I usually follow, and I don't know why I changed it. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually end up ruining anything, but I think I should have been able to, looking back, I should have been able to adjust my diet in line with performance.
Uh-huh.
If performance started dropping, then maybe my food was too low. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so then I went back to push pull legs just before I started prep, for the
Okay.
prep. And I've been on push pull legs since.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I've changed now that I'm out of prep is I've actually added one extra rest day, which I'm really struggling with because I know it's probably for the best,
Yeah.
but I can't stay out the gym.
Yep. I
Like
agree. I
that
agree.
second rest day is really tough for me. I just want to go to the gym and just go and do my
Yeah,
workout.
man. Yeah.
Um, but I've had a lot of people say, and because obviously I went and competed in a few shows, and one of which was in Denmark, and I got to spend a bit of time with some of the other competitors,
Mm-hmm.
and more than a few of them said you need to probably prioritize a bit more rest in order to
Mm-hmm.
progress a little bit more. See,
Yeah.
I've come a long way without prioritizing rest,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be that next step to get that little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And it's more a case of, I think when you become more advanced in natural bodybuilding,
Mm-hmm.
something you don't realize is as you grow, you're obviously getting quite strong.
Yeah.
But you don't think that because it's only you. Like it's, oh, it's only me. Like I'm not that
Mm-hmm.
strong. But then you forget you're deadlifting 4 plates. That's 180 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've seen you deadlift. You've deadlifted more than that. But you know how 180 feels. Like when you get reasonably strong, 180 feels a bit like it's getting there. It's getting heavy, but it's not too
Yeah.
heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's enough to tax you and really fatigue you, especially when
Yeah.
you're trying to do multiple reps. But you don't realize
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, that sort of fatigue doesn't come in the form of pain all the time, but it might make you feel a little bit lethargic, but you think, oh, it's
Yeah,
nothing.
for sure.
But actually, that's the sort of fatigue that you need to be resting off, you
Yep.
know? So that's why people are saying maybe you're at the point now where you need a little bit more rest.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dude, I
I'm gonna
relate to that
try this
hard, man.
today.
Yeah, like it's so hard to stay out of the gym, dude. For people who really love it, like when you've been doing this shit for years, like it just feels so good to be in the gym. It feels like no matter if you're making progress or not, it feels like you're making a step towards that goal, right? And I think
Yeah,
a lot of us who work really hard, we're kind of the mentality where it's like more is better. Like we always think more is better, and we have to reel ourselves back and be like, well, you know what? Like exactly what you said. Like doing these heavy deadlifts is fatiguing, and like everyone has different standards for what's heavy. For me, like yeah, 405 deadlift for reps is still fucking heavy. Like I'm not a genetic beast with like strength where maybe you're deadlifting 700 for reps. Like that is next level. But I go to the gym, I see someone deadlifting 405, and I'm like that person is fucking
strong
jacked,
guy.
dude. Like they have big traps, they have a big back. It's not easy. Like I feel like strength standards keep going up from social media, when in reality, like yeah, 405 deadlift for reps, like that's fucking good. 315 squat for reps, fucking impressive. Like I think these strength standards are really just kind of a little unrealistic these days.
I completely agree with what you just said there. Like, I think the strength standard of what is now strong has shot up so much now. It's almost off-putting. You almost
Yeah.
don't want to say you're strong. Like you say, you 315 is about 140 kilos, isn't it? So, and it's a free plate squat. Um,
Yeah, I should be
that
speaking in
to me back
kilos.
in the
I
day.
keep
No,
forgetting.
no, no. No, I can convert too because I watch a lot of American YouTube, so I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
okay.
But yeah, you see someone squat 140 or free, just let's just say 3 plates, 4 plates, whatever. If someone's
Mm-hmm,
squatting
mm-hmm.
3 plates back in the day, especially if they were repping that, I'd be like, wow,
Yeah,
he's really strong. And I remember
yeah,
the day where I was like, I can't wait until I can squat 140. And then I finally did it, and I wasn't even that pleased with it because I knew someone else would go squat 4 plates. Do you know
yep,
what I mean? That's not actually okay. Like you should be really pleased with that result.
yeah,
You
for
should be
sure.
really happy. And anyone who reaches even a 100 kilo squat for the first time, you should give yourself a pat on the back because you
Yeah,
can't just walk into the gym on your first day and squat 100 kilos. And if you do, it's going to look horrendous. It would be
yeah.
one of those reps where you broke your back to do
Or you're the point
it.
zero zero 0.001% of the whole population who's just built different. Like
Exactly.
you and I are, you're pretty tall, right? Like you're like 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, about 6'1",
Okay, yeah, I'm 6 feet
just
tall.
over.
So like, I mean, when you're shorter and denser and just kind of built with like a wider frame, like a wider skeleton, like thick bones and shit, like yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that shit's a little easier for you. I mean, I got skinny wrists and I'm 6 feet tall. Yeah.
me
So
too.
like, I think we're similar. If you're squatting 315 for full range motion, like, 140, 160, whatever, that's fucking impressive. When you're going full range motion, you're 6 feet plus tall. That, in my opinion, is like, you can't really compare it to someone who's like 5'6", 5'7", and like a lot. The range of motion's shorter. Maybe they're a lot denser too. Like you can't really compare it, in my opinion.
And the leverage is just different as well. It can actually be
Yeah.
a bit more advantageous.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with the deadlift, the only way for me to really compare it is if me being taller. Luckily for me, I've also got long arms though, so it kind of balances out. But if you had a
Uh-huh.
taller guy with longer legs but normal length arms, not quite so long as mine,
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky as a deadlifter. I've got long legs, but I've also got the long arms to go with, so it doesn't actually hinder me that much. But my
Uh-huh.
brother, on the other hand, he's not quite as tall as me, but I would say his arm to leg ratio is probably his arms are a bit shorter. So in order for him to kind of match me, it's a bit like he would probably have to pull off a block, if you know what I mean. Like he put
Yeah.
the bar on like a only a small one, but
Yeah.
it's like him pulling off. He would have to pull off a block to get the same sensation I get from pulling off the floor. So people
Yeah.
might think I'm stronger than him, but actually it's just my leverages are built for it. Like I think personally I've got the potential to go quite high in deadlift if I was to just say like, right, that's going to be my focus, just because
Mm-hmm.
I'm very well built for it. But the
Uh-huh.
squat is a disadvantage. My legs are so long. I have to like
Yep.
go so much deeper and further to get that full range of motion.
Yeah, I'm same as
So
you. Also, I feel like if you ever wanted to do powerlifting, I don't know if you ever did, if you pulled sumo, I feel like you'd be built for it.
you think? It's
I feel
interesting
like
you said that because I haven't actually given it a full go, but I do sometimes think about doing it. Maybe now's the time. I just started doing RDLs for the first time this week.
first time
And I love
ever?
this. Well, I've done them before, but I've never
Uh-huh.
programmed them. So like, before I got like really, really serious and started following a program, I would
Uh-huh.
do RDLs every once in a blue moon just because let's do
Mm-hmm.
some RDLs today when I didn't really have like a strategy to grow. I just would grow from doing whatever.
Yeah.
But when I got serious about programming, it was always a stiff leg or a conventional. All I've
Yeah.
ever done. The last cycle was just like the last training cycle I did was during prep. I just did conventional the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the reason I changed it to RDL because I'll be honest with you, I felt like my hamstring development lacked this year. I felt like it regressed from
Uh-huh.
last year. I competed in 2022 last time. I felt like my hamstrings looked better then. And the difference is I was doing more of a stiff leg style deadlift throughout that prep. In this
Uh-huh.
prep, I was doing more conventional. But my quads were also a lot bigger this year. So my
Mm-hmm.
quads blew up, but my hamstrings kind of took a back seat, which
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like that. I want balance.
Yeah, sure.
I was kind of happy to see some big quads on myself once because I've never had big quads being so tall. There was a weakness, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting you said about the sumo. Because I think even in terms of the muscles that I would develop, it probably would fix some weak points in my physique. So it'd probably be a bit more if it's advantageous for me to pull more weight. I might have to give it a go. Um,
Might be worth, yeah, dropping it in like one day or something. It could be worth it. Obviously when you first put in a new exercise, like it's not gonna feel great, but
yeah,
I think it's one of those things where you start building back up and like you probably will notice some nice growth out of it, especially like in your like glutes and I mean honestly like
because
I've always heard that sumo hits quads more and I personally agree. Like I do feel it more in my quads. But I think it's a great glute builder. And I've heard people say like they don't think it is, but I disagree, dude. Like
it
I,
100%
I
is like it's quite funny you should say that. I was just watching. Do you know what's his name? Dr. Mike Israetel on YouTube.
yeah.
So I was literally, I don't know if they've just uploaded it, but I was just watching him and that Jared Feather. They
Yeah.
put, you know, Eugene Teo. Do you know who he
Yeah,
is?
uh-huh. Mhm.
They were putting him and a few others through a workout. I literally just started watching it before this call, so it was funny you started
Okay.
talking about the sumo. And that Jared guy said, look, a lot of time people say that this is a more quad dominant pull, but it's absolutely a glute, like it's equal with the glutes. He said as you get
Yeah.
to the top and lock out, he said when he's training wellness girls, he'll put the sumo deadlift as a priority
Yeah.
because of the glute development it gives you. So
Uh-huh.
like say this is like the side, like the side of your physique or the side of your body, it would be like your back's here going down and then your butt would be like that. In order to get
Mhm.
that butt shell, he would program the sumo deadlift to get the butt to come out like that. Obviously
Dude, all I can
exaggerating,
tell
but you
you
know what
is
I
like
mean.
yeah, anecdotally, like when I switched back to doing sumos again a few years ago, I noticed like my ass got way bigger. And
Yeah.
dude, I personally think that having like a big ass as a dude is actually like a huge plus because first of all, like that's a strong fucking muscle. Like that's going to transfer to your squats really nicely and stuff.
Yeah.
But also like there's something about just like having a like a strong big butt as a dude that just makes you look like it's kind of funny, but it makes you look like way more powerful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I
It
don't want to walk
does.
around with. I don't know if you guys know King of the Hill over in the UK, right?
Um,
Like
I
the
should,
show.
but I'm pretty bad
Okay,
with
okay,
stuff like
okay.
this.
So it's like, yeah, I think it's like an American cartoon, but like the main character, Hank Hill, he's got this like little pancake ass, and dude, it is like the worst look, and I do not want to look like that. So like, I'm all about having a big ass.
Yeah, no, me too. And what's funny as well is actually I've always had a big ass because it's just the way I'm like structurally am. Like I'm very glute dominant in my squat. And
Yeah.
it was to the point where my butt started looking like a woman's ass. I was like, "Oh, it looks a bit weird now." So then I started trying to like balance it out, and then I've gone to the point where my butt's not such a strong point anymore. It is still
Yeah.
a strong point, but it's kind of why I put the RDLs back in. I was like, you know what? I was moaning about it, but I want my ass back. Like, so that's why I put the
Exactly, dude.
RDLs in. So maybe I need to go back. Well, not go back, but maybe I need to try the old sumo, see what
I think
happens.
I think RDLs are great too. Like I'm doing both of those right now, and I originally felt RDLs like almost exclusively in my hamstrings, and I started to just like
Mm,
reduce my range of motion a little bit and just like cue my glutes more. And now I really feel like it's more of a glute exercise. So I think it's like these little
mm.
minor adjustments that can make it a little more hamstring dominant or more glute dominant, you know?
I found obviously I've only done it the once this week, but I found something I had to like consciously make myself do was I would lower myself fine, and then when I get to the top, I would almost start descending again before my glutes had done their job as well. So I was
Uh-huh.
like keeping it on the hams, but that wasn't intentional. It was just it felt like natural to do it. But I'm having to like make
Yeah.
a conscious effort to fully lock my hips out at the top because I feel
Yeah.
like in my head that's where I could feel the glutes working the most.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Like coming out of the bottom, I couldn't feel too much glute. I mean, they would stretch in the bottom where your
Mm-hmm.
butt sticks out, and the same
Yeah.
with the hams. But I just wouldn't feel too much going on in terms of contraction until I got to the
Yeah.
top and pushed the hips forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like I'm to teach myself, hey, the rep doesn't finish until
Yeah.
your hips are forward. Because it's just feel tempting to drop back down, but actually it's like
Yeah.
you're cutting yourself short. So see, it
It
was only
makes
my first
sense.
session, so I'll get better.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. It's like a hip thrust at the top, you know? It's like a barbell
Yeah,
glute bridge, but like standing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so one thing that I want to highlight with this whole conversation right here, which I feel like ties in really nicely, is just like your training style and what I personally also like. I really get behind this. I feel like you train like a lot of compound movements, and you go heavy on them, and you go hard. And I've noticed
Yeah.
it seems like there's a trend that I'm seeing more out of like UK based lifters. Like I'm thinking like AJ
Yeah.
Maras. I'm thinking of like JP, like Jordan Peters. Um, you guys like lift like with high intensity and a bit lower volume. It seems like, is that like a trend in the UK more?
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say actually, 'cause I noticed I was gonna say in terms of volume, I'd say we still have quite a bit of volume, but we do a bit more
Okay.
exercise variation. So we won't
Uh
do
huh.
like one exercise and then four sets. We'll do like six exercises, but then you'll do a top set and a back off set. That's the
Uh huh.
general thing that people seem to do in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And it works and it's fun because you get to just be like, right, warm up set, warm up set, warm up set, warm up set. Right, I'm ready to go ham now. Big heavy set. And then
Yeah.
you go all out on that. Maybe save one rep if you're smart, but I'm not smart. I never
Yeah,
save a
dude.
rep because I just love the feeling of going ham.
Yep.
And then you know you've got your back off set where you're going to do a controlled set. You're gonna really own the weight and you're going to control every rep and control those
Mm-hmm.
negatives and take the full range on every rep. But yeah, generally, and I think you're right. It seems to be quite a thing in the UK that's picked up, and like where we do seem to really prioritize, especially like posterior chain workouts.
Uh
Like
huh.
we don't really think of it as like, a little back day. We look at it as like it's a posterior day. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna kill, like you say, it's a bit like that density day I was describing JP's methodology.
Yeah.
But I do think in the UK everyone knows who JP is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, and you're in the bodybuilding world, you've been living under a rock.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us are influenced by JP. Everyone knows he's got that really freaky thick back, and it started to
Yeah.
become that thing that everybody just wants. I mean, if you're a competitor, um, in bodybuilding generally, it isn't just the natural world, but it's quite strong in the natural world, actually. This belief is that shows are won from the rear. As soon as you
Yeah.
turn around, if you ain't got a back, but you've got a really good front half, you're probably not going to do so well if someone turns around and they've got big glutes, hams, adductors that touch. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like the
Hmm.
back is just thick, gnarly, and then you've got the spinal erectors that are just so dense.
Hmm.
Traps are also popping. That guy is going to take you, even if they turn around and didn't have quite as big a chest. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And actually, I'd say AJ Morris is a good example of that. Like, he's one of those people who doesn't actually probably have the best genetics, but because
Hmm.
he's so into his deadlift and his working his posterior chain, that kid turns around to the back, and he also comes in diced as well. So he's
Yeah.
shredded,
Yeah.
turns around to the back, and even though he's not the biggest guy on stage, you can see the detail in those glutes. You see those adductors, you could see the
Hmm.
hamstrings, you could see his whole back is just like it still needs a bit of work. But obviously, he hasn't competed for years now. But the last time I seen him, is like he looked impressive, and I know he can do
Yeah.
more because
Hmm.
everyone can. There is no natural limits. I believe that. But yeah, he hasn't got the biggest chest. Doesn't have great arms. He's got. I'll be honest with you, he's got shit arms, and he'd probably say it
Hmm.
himself. I don't know him, but I've heard how he speaks about other bodybuilders.
Hmm.
I've heard how he speaks about himself. He would say the same thing. He's very blunt when it comes to it. Um, and yeah, so his arms aren't great, but yet he still wins bodybuilder shows because
Yeah.
his back and his legs are just they're so complete. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. And you know what, dude? Like, I think there's something that I really really like about all that training. It's just like the intensity, like the raw intensity, and I think a lot of natural lifters, especially like, I mean, I think this applies to everybody, but I think especially naturals. It's like you gotta push like your numbers really hard. You gotta push that progressive overload, and I think
Hmm.
that I feel like a lot of people just aren't really getting the intensity right. Where like I really appreciate that you guys are going fucking hard over there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
All right. Yeah, and to be honest with you as well, like I would say, even when we go and do international shows, the UK teams are doing pretty well in
Yeah.
bodybuilding. We are taking a lot of wins at the moment, and I do think it's very much to do so with the style of training. But then again, I just went to Denmark for a show, and some of the Danish bodybuilders, bloody hell, I want to know what they're doing as well because
Really.
they also look pretty good. Um, so I think it's just maybe it's a European thing. Maybe they're also doing similar
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
will
it's
say, like,
interesting.
sorry, I just wanted to also just point out the fact that I'm interested in your opinion about this too. I feel like when your numbers are really good as a natural lifter, let's say you're like I don't know, you're benching 315 for reps or whatever, and then like you know you cut down, your numbers are still pretty high. The lifter who can get themselves to like just pressing more weight is going to have a more impressive chest overall. Like I feel like you just really can't break up strength um and hypertrophy completely. Would you agree with that?
100%,
Okay.
100%, I agree.
Because I feel like we're
And that's
losing that, you know?
yeah, I think so. I think it's a weird one. I think it's because you've got on social media now, you've got like two courts. You've got the science-based guys, and then you've got the guys who just work hard and try things. And a
Yeah,
lot of the
for
science-based
sure.
stuff, as amazing as it is, because I'm in both courts, I'm like impartial. I
Yeah,
don't know. Like
agreed.
sometimes I'm like science-based, and then another time I'm like, oh, fuck the science-based shit, it's crap. I'll go back to do my usual because it's worked the whole time. And
Yeah.
actually, both are right, but it's finding the balance. And I find some people are finding they're falling too much into the science that they're not actually trialing stuff.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of people got to remember when it comes to the science experiments that get referenced, they're usually done on newbie lifters who would have probably grown from doing anything.
Yeah,
Do you know what
man.
I mean?
Hmm.
So really what you want to do is find an approach that is going to help you go beyond noob gains. Like
Hmm.
whatever you do when you're getting your noob gains, I don't really think anyone cares what you did at that point. 'Cause it's like you could have done
Yeah.
whatever. It's what did you do to get out past that sticking point? It's like where you're like, right, I'm at, you know, people think they're at their natural limit, but actually
Yeah.
it's like their body's just really adapted to
Uh-huh.
all the noob stuff. Like, 'cause
Hmm.
I think noob, what we end up doing is just you train intense, but in a different way. So like you might just be
Hmm.
like, oh, just do drop sets all the time, but you're
Hmm.
not actually lifting very heavy weights, so it's not like
Yeah.
that much to recover from. But when you're doing drop sets like that, when you're actually strong, that's when it becomes a bit more intense.
For
Um,
sure.
but yeah, but then I think you have now also got the flip side of newbies that don't go intense enough because they're on the
Yeah.
sciencey side of it. Oh, you only need to do a set to like I don't know RPE 7 or whatever, you know, or they'll say you
It
need
which
like
is probably
two to
really like
three reps.
RP like fucking 3, you
Yeah, who
know?
gives a
Because they
crap
don't know
about
what
that
failure
shit?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, what you just said. I think a lot of people don't even know what true failure is. Sometimes I don't even know what true failure is, even now. Sometimes I
Agreed.
shock myself when I'm on the leg press and I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to go for that next one, even though I know I shouldn't, and I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas my old style would have been like, that's failure. Like a
Yeah,
rep
man.
before.
I just love training hard, and sometimes like in my program, I'm like, I probably shouldn't push this to failure. Probably shouldn't push it. It's like the first like training week of like a mesocycle or whatever, and it's just so hard to pull yourself back to like
It's
a
boring, isn't
true
it, not to?
RP. Yeah, dude. Yeah, like, but I get it. Like, it's important, like especially after like a deload, you want to ease back in and stuff, and but yeah, man, it just pushing hard is just so it's such a good feeling. That's why I love like also like Alex Leonidas, like that dude, if you know him at all. Like
Yeah.
I like his training methodology where he pushes hard, he just swaps exercise often and stuff. He kind of has that like West Side approach. But I just man, like I gravitate towards that. So I feel like
Yeah.
we're very much in line about like lifting methodologies, I feel like, dude.
Yeah. Do you know what? I know you wanted to know at some point who I'm influenced by in the natural
Yeah.
bodybuilding world, and I actually had
Hmm.
him down. So Alex Leonidas, and also there's another kid called Keithy West in the UK. Have you heard
Okay.
of him?
No, all right. How do you spell it? Is it just like KP, like initials?
So it's I think it's Khifie.
KH? Okay.
So that's Kif. I think he calls it Kiffy, but I call it Kiwi. And then his
Okay.
last name's West on
West.
Instagram.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him. He's
So this
like
kid,
a natural dude,
y-
right? Like,
yeah, and so many people are
he's-
questioning his natural status. Like anyone I talk to
yeah.
at the gym, like he's not really natural. It's like yes, yes, I believe he is. I think
Uh-huh.
you're just too scared of what heights you can take natural bodybuilding to, and you refuse to believe it because you don't want to take it there yourself. But
Yeah.
this kid is unbelievably strong at the deadlift. But him and Alex Leonidas, they're both just so dense, if you know what I mean. Like their physiques are so
Yeah.
dense from the back, and I just think
Hmm.
I just want that. And I know I've actually got that to an extent now. I've got a pretty dense back myself. It could be thicker,
Uh-huh.
but it's not quite there. Like with on their levels, it's getting close,
Yeah.
but I'm not even close to Keithy West. Bloody hell, that kid's strong.
Yeah.
Like he'll deadlift 300 per reps in his off season. That is absolutely mind blowing. And he'll go to the
Insane.
point as well. You think he hasn't got another rep. He'll go and pull another two.
Damn.
It looks absolutely weird to look at. You think it's not going to happen, and he'll do it.
Damn, dude.
Do you
That's
know what I mean?
crazy.
That kid is
Yeah.
not leaving reps in reserve very often. And yet
Yeah.
he's probably one of the strongest natural deadlifters I've seen. So reps in reserve thing, I think there is a time and place for it, but I think there's
Hmm.
also like another side to the coin there where your body will force you into a deload.
Yeah,
You
it
know, if
will.
you train hard every time, it will force you into the deload anyway. Like the next week,
Hmm.
you'll go to do that many reps again, you won't be able to do it. That to me is a forced deload. What's
Yeah.
wrong with that?
Yeah.
Your body didn't let you do it that week. So
Hmm.
what do? You take it on the chin, you go home and you eat up, eat some food,
Yeah.
recover, make sure you get some sleep in, but you can go back next week. I truly don't think you have to take a deload. I
Hmm.
think it's probably if you're injury prone and you
Yeah,
know you're
exactly.
like susceptible to stuff like that, then okay, maybe plan your deloads. But if you've not
Yeah.
had any negative experiences, what are you doing deloading? Like some of
Yeah.
these people who are new to lifting, like you said, like they don't even know what true failure is, and then they'll go and
Hmm.
take a deload week. You're like, you were just getting the ball rolling, and you took a deload week and just set yourself back. Like what
Yeah.
have you done that for? Like I didn't even know what a deload was back in the day. There was no such thing. It was just like they say you'd have a horse deload because your body wouldn't allow you 1 week to do an extra rep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm
that's my
not.
thoughts on that with the newbies.
I kind of agree to an extent, man. Like I feel like deloads are a little bit. I have mixed feelings about them. I think for powerlifting, they could be a very useful strategy. Like also like time in with like
Mhm.
peaking, like tapering, all that stuff. It's kind of like a deload, but I don't know. Like for hypertrophy purposes, I kind of agree with you. Where it's just like if your body just cannot fucking like if you're so fatigued, like you cannot just hit that PR on the exercise that you have right now in your rotation. It's like you just listen to it. Like don't just go along with it. If you can't hit it, you can't hit it. And then eventually, like if you can't hit all your sets, just fucking go with it. Like you don't have to plan specifically to like drop all your weights by 50% on like week 8. I think that like that reactive deload approach is a good idea. And then like you can keep your intensity high, maybe just drop your volume, and then
Mhm.
use that as a deload. Like there's a lot of different approaches.
Yeah.
But dude, for the sake of time, I really also want to hear about your last bodybuilding prep. So, do you want to move on to that and talk about
Yes.
that a little bit?
Yeah.
Cool.
What would you like to know specifically? Would you like to know
Yeah.
timescales or I don't know, is
Yeah,
there any
let's
particular questions you had?
let's go from like your I mean, I guess we're already almost closing in on an hour. So I mean, like, it just goes back to, dude, like, just talking about training with someone else who's passionate about talking about training.
Love it.
Just fucking, dude, time just flies. So, for the sake of time here, let's go back to your last bodybuilding prep that just happened, and if we could kind of do like a quicker overview of like your first prep, how that went, your first show and everything, and then maybe talk about more about like the psychological effects, like the impact that it had on your body after trying to sustain for, I guess a few months, right? That'd be cool to hear about.
Yeah, yeah. So my first competition I did was back in 2017, and it wasn't planned at all. So basically, this is when my brothers were still into lifting. I had two brothers
Mm-hmm.
that basically just competed. They both competed in September, like at the start of the month. I went and watched their show, and then I saw there was an actual show at the end of the month. I was not even that lean. I was just like semi-lean. I thought, you know what? Let's just do it. And then I went for like 3 weeks, went absolutely hammed when I get shredded, cut my calories, went really ham on like the step count,
Mm-hmm.
did cardio as well, did the stem, did whatever I needed to do or whatever I could do to get shredded in 3 weeks. It was
Yeah.
an interesting thing. I wish I documented it now. It's one
Three
of those things
weeks,
that people
jeez.
like to see. Oh, I got shredded in 3 weeks, sort of thing. And actually, I
Uh-huh.
wasn't shredded, but I tried. So yeah, that was the first show I did. And actually, I came second. And it was really
Wow.
pleasing. I wasn't even the leanest guy. They just liked my structure and my shape
Mm-hmm.
for men's physique. So I'm obviously quite well built for that division.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 weeks later, I had an invite for the finals. So they give me another 3 weeks to get leaner, which I managed to utilize. So I had basically a 6 week prep, if you want to call it a prep,
Wow, it's still
where I went to the
short though.
finals. It was very short, very intense, but I did it. And I came third at the finals. And I got in the best shape of my life. I'd never been so lean. I'd done it just out of nowhere. Didn't even plan it. It wasn't like a planned off season or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of always thought, right, what would happen now if I had a full off season and then shredded properly, like not with 6 hard weeks to do it over time. And I never actually went back to it until 2022. So
Mm-hmm.
I had life hits you, doesn't it? You get other things that you prioritize. So 2022, I went back, did it again, much more um, sensible approach. Um, but still, I learned a lot of lessons on the way. It was more to do with peaking strategies and fatigue management. So
Uh-huh.
that's like the key thing I think that people overlook in a prep is you just want to do more all the time. And sometimes less is more when it comes to getting in shape. And I found that definitely the hard way this year.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2022, I thought I didn't manage fatigue properly, but actually I didn't do too bad of a job when I look back at it. This year I did a bad job, I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, um, I gave myself an extra month than I did in 2022 to get in shape. I don't know. No, no, in fact, I didn't. No, I didn't give myself an extra month. I planned to, but then I thought, no, I don't need it. That's what happened. So I went and kind of gave myself
Mm-hmm.
a similar amount. Um, and then I was kind of 2 months in to this prep. So I felt like I was a little bit behind. And I thought I need to do a little bit more to get in shape quicker. So it was kind of like August time. And I was like, I need to get in shape for September. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be ready 4 weeks early because that's what people say you should do. You should be ready four
Uh-huh.
weeks out, really. You should look ready. And I still, to a degree, agree with that, actually. But I pushed so hard with calories, I dropped them quite significantly. And I was really increased the step count, increased the cardio to the point where it was like a little bit too fatiguing
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't really recovering properly. But when I went to my first show, I managed to drop enough fatigue to look good. So that was early September, is when I got my first win. So I was buzzing with that. I managed to get my first win in men's physique. It was only a small show. There was only four of us on the stage, so I was a little bit disappointed with that. I didn't get to properly go at it with like a bunch of other guys. But
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, the shape I brought, I think I still would have very likely won because it was the best look of
Mm-hmm.
the year. But after that prep, after that show, I had a few more shows lined up in October. So the first show I did was UK DFBA, Heart of England. And then the second show I had was a WMBF Supernaturals. So you've heard of WMBF. I know
Yeah, of
they're
course.
global.
Yeah.
So WMBF UK had a it was called the Supernaturals on the 6th of October, I believe,
Uh-huh.
which sure I forgot to say this actually. So the reason I say about fatigue management being a little bit of a hindrance,
Uh-huh.
um, after my first show that I won, I was so hyped, I went straight to the gym the next day and I went and hammered my legs, hammered them because they hadn't been trained for like 2 weeks whilst I was peaking for that first show. Because
Uh-huh.
when you peak for a show, you don't want to hit your legs really that week. And if you do, you hit them softly so that you don't retain
Yeah.
water and you have less stress on your body because it will show if you've gone and hammered your legs, it'll probably show in your physique. You'd be a bit
Uh-huh.
watery, lose a few lines here and there, even in your midsection. You might think, oh, it's only your legs, but it's like no, it makes your whole body like stressed.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I was kind of gagging to go and train legs from peaking for that day where I hadn't
Uh-huh.
trained them for like almost 2 weeks. Um, but then yeah, I like 2, 3 days after I'd done that show, my body started fighting back in terms of I couldn't keep food down. So I was
Mm.
I was just like, I
Wow.
think it was like the Wednesday. I was like, what is going on? I was like hungry but not. I was like, I feel a bit weird. Like, and I was just eating like my pre-workout cream of rice with protein. I remember, and I was just ready to go to the gym in like 2 hours, and I was quite excited to go to the gym, even though I felt a bit off. And next, I was being sick, and it was like it got to the point where it was then coming out both ends. So your
Oh,
body
wow.
will tell you when enough's enough. At that point, it's like you can't push it. So
Uh-huh.
what I should have been doing was resting after that show. I
Mm-hmm.
should have had a good few days off to chill out. Because you do a bit of water manipulation as well, so you dehydrate for shows.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular show I'd just done, went on a lot later than I thought. So I
Mm-hmm.
was drying out for longer to try and be nice and lean.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really eating properly all day either, because you want to stay nice and tight in the midsection for men's physique. Men's
Yeah.
physique's all about that slimline waist and being absolutely tiny V taper and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things I kind of no, I wouldn't say I forgot that I'd done that, but I didn't feel too bad the next day. The next day I ate a little bit of food, but then after that I had one day to basically recover, which I thought was enough. So the day
Uh-huh.
after my show I thought was enough, and then I went back. I trained in the same evening because I had food. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was okay. Oh, I've eaten a lot of food. I've got energy now, but actually your body's way more beaten up than you think. You might feel all right. You might get that initial energy burst from having some extra calories, but actually
Uh-huh.
you're still trying to shake off all that fatigue that you built up into that show. Um, so yeah, it brought back 2 days later. I was very ill, and
Mm-hmm.
I think since that I didn't quite recover. So I was obviously being sick. I had diarrhea. Like I had everything going wrong 2 days later, and it's not what you want when you're trying to recover from a show. It was the
Yeah.
opposite of recovery, and then I basically had a few days where I obviously couldn't train. I was trying to get myself back to life. So I was
Uh-huh.
eating again, trying to just, fill the muscles back out, carb loading to push the carbs back in.
Uh-huh.
And once I felt like the physique was looking pretty full, and it was looking full, I went back to the gym. But I still don't think it was recovered. I thought it was because I looked good and I felt good in the
Uh-huh.
gym. Um, but I went into my next show, which was about 3 weeks later. And I looked pretty good for it, but I didn't pump very well. Like I was pretty lean for it, and I
Mm-hmm.
placed third at this one.
Mm-hmm.
I was very happy with the placing though, because it was a lineup of 20 guys, I think, or up to 20. This was
Oh,
probably
that's
the
great.
biggest lineup I've been in, and I took third place. So
Uh-huh.
I was buzzing with that. The guy who won was already a pro in other divisions.
That was the
So
WNBA Supernaturals?
it's a WMBF
WNBF?
Supernaturals, yeah.
WNBF. Wow, dude, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's really, really great.
Yeah, it was not a bad showing, but that qualified me for Boston, that did. So
Sure.
I was supposed to go to Boston next week.
Right.
But long story short,
Damn.
I backed out.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll get
So
to it. We'll get to
you,
it.
yeah, yeah. So you became pro in 2022 from that one,
No, no,
the
no. I
show
didn't.
you.
No, I'm not. I'm not a pro. I'm not a pro.
Oh, you're not pro yet. So WNBF Supernaturals isn't a pro show necessarily.
It's not no, but you can become a pro at
Gotcha.
that. So if you win the
Oh, I
overall, you
see.
become pro. But what
Okay,
I
and that's
said
a
there, I
that's
think
a
what
big
got
show. Jeez, 20
it
20
is,
people.
yeah,
Eight just in
yeah. So
your
just in my
class.
division, yeah.
Wow.
There was a pro show in the evening though, so that's probably why you thought that. So you've got like the amateurs first, and then
Ah.
you've got the pro show in the evening. So it is a pro show as well.
Okay.
But the guy, what I was saying about my class is the guy who won, he was in really good shape, but he was
Mm-hmm.
also a pro in other federations already. So he wasn't a
Ah.
WNBF pro, but he was like a PNBA pro, if you've heard
Okay.
of them. I think there is another division as well. I looked at his profile, I was like, wow. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any shame to losing to that guy. And the guy who comes
Mm-hmm.
second was just so shredded. Like he just had that extra condition on me. And actually, it was quite sad because I was looking at my condition and thinking, oh, how am I not as shredded as these guys? I've started so hard. I've worked so hard to get in shape. Like
Uh-huh.
I should be looking like that. And actually, what it was it was just water manipulation at that point where
Mm.
even though I was dry, I was flat. So I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but when you're flat, your muscles just aren't as full with glycogen as you'd like them
Yeah.
to be. So the more full your muscles are, along with being dried out, your muscles will press against the skin, and that includes your abs as well. So a lot of people don't realize that your midsection, if it's full and dry, that's when you look shredded. But
Hmm.
if your abs are flat and you're also retaining a little bit of water, but generally if they're just flat, they don't have that pop. During the majority of my prep, like I'd say around August time, I, I looked in my best shape, and actually I looked ready to step on stage sometimes in August. Like there was some days in
Hmm.
August, but I could get on stage now. Like I look so good, and
Yeah.
my abs are really big and full, and like like serratus were really dry. But then something happened, I think, after that first show where I was ill. I just couldn't get that look back.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know whether it's just because I pushed so hard with the calories and stuff in August to get the original amazing look that I was so happy with. Once I'd done
Uh-huh.
my first show and my body backfired, it was quite hard to get that perfect peak look. So you're trying to peak your physique for these shows, you know?
Hmm.
But I was just out in this constant like cycle of like trying to get out of flatness, trying to get my muscles full again to look my best, to then filling up, but it would be really short-lived for a show. And
Hmm.
then you go through the drying out process, and as I was drying out, I felt like I was getting depleted again.
Mm.
And then I had so WMBF, I had the one weekend. The following weekend, I had UK DFBA finals, so I did that, and that was a double show weekend. So I did
Damn,
men's
dude.
physique, and I did classic the next day as well, which was a big mistake. Don't do that.
Uh-huh.
I thought it would be nice and easy, but whilst I'm in shape, let's do all these shows, and it was
Yeah.
just so stressful, emotionally, mentally, physically. You go through the drying out process, like I said, the peaking process. You carb up, go through some digestive stress with pushing the carbs in to fill out.
Hmm.
Then you dry out. I was taking like a natural diuretics, a bit of dandelion root, and eating
Yep.
asparagus and all that stuff that makes you pee a lot. And it
Yep.
works. It really dries you out, but
Hmm.
it's not a natural thing to put your body through all the time.
Right.
And I did that 3 weeks in a row because obviously I had WMBF, not obviously no one knows, but I had WMBF. Then the following weekend I had a double weekend show,
Hmm.
double day show, sorry. And then the following week is when I went to Denmark, so I had my invite from where I won my first show in September. So yeah, and then after that, all these shows that I did, I was looking okay. I was basically very lucky that I'd built enough muscle where it didn't matter too much to the point where I'd still place, but I
Uh-huh.
couldn't take the win. Like, and I knew I wouldn't win in any of these shows. Like, and I know what I'm looking at when I look at myself. It's like
Hmm.
I could tell I wasn't as full and hard as when I did my September show. I could
Yeah.
just see it and I could feel it as well. I just felt like I was a bit off. Especially when I was in Denmark, I felt very small.
Hmm.
Um, and at that point, I was like, right, I need a bit of rest after this show. And I had rest and I ate some
Hmm.
food and everything, thinking that would bring me back. And I probably, at this point, I think I'd lost my head a little bit, I'll be honest, where I felt so down and a little bit emotional about how things hadn't quite gone my way. I didn't really know what to think about any of it. The
Hmm.
cat jumping in there. Didn't know how to process any of it really, and how to fix it. Because this is all new waters for me. Like I hadn't really been in this,
Yeah.
and I don't have a coach either, so it's all self-prep.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't really have anyone to like lean on and ask like for advice. But when I was in Denmark, because like I said, we went to Denmark as a team, so part of Team
Hmm.
UK DFBA. Um, ended up speaking to a few people who had different, well, pretty similar advice. They all said, right, look, if your condition is what the point is, then it is what's kind of lacking. You need to get on the stair mill and, push the cardio a bit in these next 3 weeks before you go to Boston.
Uh-huh.
And I did that. And I went on the stair mill every morning. I did all the extra cardio, went ham. But it wasn't to do with condition at this point. It was my body
Uh-huh.
was just absolutely battered with fatigue. Like, and I was
Dude,
just making it
your
worse.
cortisol levels are probably like just sky high, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what I'd done. And I was in such a weird headspace. I didn't even realize what was going on until it was like the damage was just so much. Like I was telling my missus, what made me pull out was I was 2 weeks into my Boston prep from
Uh-huh.
the Denmark show that I'd just been. I sat on the leg press. I was like warming up my legs, and I was like, my legs are sore. Like, and I trained legs like over a week ago. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm not recovering.
Uh-huh.
And I was holding lots of water in my physique. You could just see my body was tired. I
Wow.
got home and I'll be honest with you, I don't have any shame, but I had a little cry about it. I was just like, I
Hmm.
pushed to the point, like, and this is the most important show of my life, and
Hmm.
I don't think I can do it. I just
Hmm.
don't think I can do it. Like, and if I do, at what cost? What's it going to
Yeah.
cost me? Is it going to cost me my health? Am I just being a girl at this point and I'm being scared to push myself? Or,
Uh-huh.
but I spoke it through with my partner. I was just like, I don't think I'm being ridiculous. I think I'm correct. I think it needs to stop. Um, but I think it should be hopefully a good lesson to me and also a lot of other people. If you
Yeah.
want to get in shape, it's not everything, man. Like, it's important. Like, if you've got like a good reason and it's your hobby, and like I get it, you want to go. I wanted to go pro this year. I really wanted
Uh-huh.
it, and I was looking at Boston as my last chance at WNBF Worlds.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm gonna go for it, and I really tried. I got it. I went on the treadmill every day. I went on the stairmill. I did what I needed to do, but it just got worse and worse. Holding more and more
Yeah, yeah.
water, not recovering. Body was just hurting, looking worse and worse every day. I even wondered if I was losing muscle on my chest. I was like, what is going on? Like, I just feel like everything's going the wrong way. I
Yeah.
thought if I want to go pro, I need to feel like a pro. I need to be going into the show feeling the most confident I've ever felt. But my confidence had literally gone from like up here all the way down here. And it was just like, if this is how I feel, I cannot go and travel across the world, step on the world stage, not feeling proud of what I've built
Yeah,
or
for
where I'm
sure.
at. Like, I can't do it to myself. Like, get anxious anyway, but to then be in America and not be happy with how I look. It would be my first time in America. Like I wanted it to be more like a really happy thing, and it was just turning into not that. It was turning into the opposite. Like you
Yeah.
said, it was just raising cortisol for me like crazy. I was
Hmm.
stressed emotionally, stressed physically, and that's not how prep should go. It needs to be fatigue needs to be managed so much better.
Hmm.
And I've learned so much from this of what not to do.
Yeah.
And it's basically give yourself enough time, more time than you think. Give
Yeah.
yourself more food to diet on over longer time
Hmm.
so that you can maintain your training performance. Because that's key at the end of the day. Those 3 weeks where I did back-to-back shows, my performance was dropping every week because I wasn't able to train hard.
Hmm.
Because of trying to peak for the weekend all the time. So it
Hmm.
was like you were doing lots and lots of pump work, and actually my legs almost got left alone, and I've lost a lot of. I'm rebuilding my legs now.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that should never happen. That should never happen in a prep. Like okay, you'll lose a tad bit of strength, but you shouldn't
Uh-huh.
lose as
Sure.
much as I did.
Uh-huh.
It's going back fast. Don't get me wrong. I'm shoving the food in now, and this is when you said, "Oh, Joe's shredded at the moment." I'm not shredded at the moment because I'm only because I think the way I finished the prep, it was like I wasn't in a good headspace, or physically I wasn't in a good space either,
Right.
and I just felt like the only thing I can do right now to feel better is just to eat.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't want to feel guilty about it either because I've been so stressed emotionally. I was
Oh,
just thought, you know what,
100%.
I need to sort this out,
Yeah.
look after my mind first, and then hopefully the body will follow.
Yeah.
And I'm still not even right now, to be honest, but it will get there, and I know that. It's just a little bit of a time game now, I think. The food's in,
Yeah.
like eating more food at this point is probably not going to help. It's just going to be like that's more of an emotional thing. But now I think it's just rest, getting the
Yeah.
rest in, getting back to a good sleep schedule. Because at moments, even sleep's like, because that's the other thing I was going to say is when it comes to fatigue management, the reason you become so fatigued is because you're not sleeping well.
Yeah.
Um, and there's quite a long time in my prep, like I'd say a good 6 weeks before, like 4 weeks before my first show where sleep had gone down the pot. And
Uh-huh.
then after that, even since like the first show where I won, I was still not sleeping. Um, so if you don't sleep, you don't recover, and everything kind of just compiled.
Yeah.
A lot of people have like what's called a diet break. I didn't get a chance to do that because my prep was too short. I didn't have time to
Hmm.
schedule that in. So yeah, so I've got like this really bit, like to summarize it, I've got this really bittersweet feeling about how the prep went this year. I
Yeah.
100% got in the best shape of my life. But like for that
Uh-huh.
first show, really proud of what I looked like. And during the whole of August, when I was in the gym, the amount of people who were like, "Whoa, mate, you look amazing." I
Yeah.
had lots of compliments, and as a vegan, that's exactly what I needed. All I wanted to do was represent veganism this year. I wanted to get a pro card as a vegan and do my bit. That's my bit for the animals.
Yeah,
Like
man.
it's not enough. Like they need more from me, but it's my way of giving to the animals. It's my way of representing. Like there isn't a lot of bodybuilders willing to, vegan bodybuilders willing to get on stage.
Hmm.
There's a few, but there's not many. Like a lot of us, like we live casually, but I think getting on the stage speaks to at a different level.
Agreed.
Um, because there's still so many people that say, "Oh, well, you might be able to build, muscle on a vegan diet, but there's no vegan Mr. Olympia. Like there's silly comments like that, which means
Dude,
people do
yeah,
care
it's
about seeing vegans on the stage. So if that's something I can do and I like to do, then that's what I want to do. Like as much as
yeah,
it
man.
stressed me out, I'm going to do it again in over a few years.
Yeah.
Um, I did get an invite for the Worlds in a different federation in June, so it's with the INBA,
Congratulations.
PNBA, but I'm
Hell
probably
yeah.
not going to do it because I
Yeah,
think
you
I
need
need
you
some
need
time.
time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
Um,
basically, I think, like I say, I'll just finish it. Just it was really bittersweet because I did well, top breed and everything, but I know I could have done better had I managed
mhm.
fatigue better. I could have, maybe took a few first placings, and it felt sad because I was actually in shape. It's just that I was holding water and I was stressed and
Uh-huh.
fatigued, and I
Yeah.
needed managing so much better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
sorry.
dude, yeah, no, that was really great. I also feel like, you know, you got to learn from experience, right? And like, as no matter how much you read online, or even if you have a coach walking you through this stuff, I feel like you got to learn yourself firsthand and know what your body is capable of, know how stressful things are. And I haven't ever competed in bodybuilding, but I've talked to many people, and I understand a lot about, this kind of stuff. So obviously, like, I get that it's super taxing to be that lean for that long, and also like there's a lot of stress. I mean, like you said, like you're using like water manipulation tactics. You're also training really hard still. I mean, that shit, when you're doing it for months on end and you're already like what, like 7% body fat, dude, that is super fatiguing. And like, now you know how you feel. Now you put your body through that. Next time around, you're gonna do it even better. You're gonna be pro, and you've learned a lot from this at the very least, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope I've learned from it. But no, yeah, I have. I've definitely learned.
That's awesome, man. So for the sake of trying to keep these episodes a little bit shorter, we're closing in on we're over an hour now, but I would really love to talk to you about veganism and all that, which we didn't even get a chance to talk about. Um, would you want to come back on another episode maybe, and we could talk about like more about the ethics and all that stuff, maybe about like your diet, all that kind of stuff?
100%. Do it. Get me booked
Cool,
in.
man. Cool. Well, let's wrap this one up. Let's call this like a training bodybuilding focused episode. And so obviously, like for your future goals and stuff, I know you want to go pro and everything. What about like any other goals with bodybuilding, with lifting, with career stuff, personal stuff? What do you have going on there?
Yeah, so obviously you said one of the main things is going to be I want that natural bodybuilding pro card. Reason I want a
Yeah.
natural pro card is because as a vegan, I think it's very, very important to stay natural. People would just say, well, anyone could get big if they're on juice, which is absolutely true. So I do not want anybody to be able to say that about me. I want people to understand that vegan diets can take you to a pro card naturally.
Hmm.
Um, and people won't even notice. Like I make this joke now where I say spot the vegan on my pictures on my story. I just do it every now and then just to wind people up.
Uh,
Um, but then I guess my other goal would be gym performance. I would love to get a free plate bench for a few reps. So I've only been able to do it for one in the past. So I want to be able to get comfortable with free plates and maybe even push like
yeah.
150, 160. Same with squat. I want to get my squat down up to 180. And I think I'd like to get myself in a position where I can deadlift 220 for a good few reps because I've only done it
Hmm.
for two in the past and it was really hard. So my three
Hmm.
big lifts, I want to progress them to go into the elite territory. I'm sure you know what I
Hmm.
mean by that, but you've got like intermediate, then you've got advanced, and then you've got elite. I want to get, like, I feel like I'm not even quite advanced. I feel I'm getting to advanced, but I want to break past that.
Hmm.
Again, I want to do that for veganism. I want to be able to show that you can be on a plant-based diet and keep up with the big boys. Alex Leonidas is already doing it, but I
Yeah,
want to just
man.
be another example. I know
Yeah.
yourself as well. You're getting pretty strong at these three lifts as well, so it's
Trying.
inspiring to see that other vegans are also doing it. So, and I want to just be another one of you guys that do it,
Yeah, man.
as well as jumping on the stage, so it's showing that you can do it all. Um,
That's awesome.
and outside of the gym, I got a little project. I don't want to talk about it just yet. I've got
Okay.
something going on.
Okay.
Um, I've got a joint YouTube channel with my brother. It's called Vegan Activists.
Hmm.
It's linked with that. Let's just leave it there. But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
but
Dude,
yeah,
you guys,
I,
you
I
guys are you guys are like, you have so much potential to make really, really great influential content. So I'm stoked to hear that you guys are even planning anything. Also, the name Vegan Jacktivists is fucking genius.
yeah. So I come up with that on a treadmill this year during prep. I was like, we were
So
called
good.
Honest Muscle before. I was like, Honest Muscle's boring. Like, I want something else. And I was like, what can I do? I don't know where it came from. I was just like, activist.
Dude, it's
And that came
genius.
like, that could just like it's funny you said genius because that's the exact word Manil said. But when he noticed it, he goes, "Joe, activist is genius." I was like, "I'm so glad you said that," because I
It
thought it's
is.
one of those like it sounds a bit weird, but
No, it's
hopefully
so
people will
good.
clock on. And I haven't had a single person tell me it's weird yet, and most people have said it's a really great name. So yeah, I wanna bring Jacktivists to life
Yeah,
in
dude.
many ways. I want to bring our YouTube to life. I want to do all sorts to just almost create a movement because that's what we all are. Like, if we are vegan lifters, isn't that what we are? We
Yeah.
are Jack for the animals. That is our way of representing.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
And then for uh any like for a closing statement here, for advice maybe for a vegan lifter or bodybuilder who really wants to take things to the next level, if you had to give them one piece of advice, like nice and simple, digestible tip, what would you say?
Um, so I would say you need to find, I would say before you go and make any decisions on diet, you should understand how to appropriately plan a diet to a degree, because it can be a little bit daunting and you could get things wrong. I'd say find a good number of influential bodybuilding vegans, take what you believe to be the best parts of their diets and how they handle things, and merge them into your own version of that.
Hmm.
That would be my best piece of advice. I would say don't just try it on your own. Look for people who have been there, done that. And then yeah, take the most logical pieces of advice that other vegans, like I'm talking obviously bodybuilding vegans, have already
Hmm.
dished out there for us to help us out. There's people like yourself, people like myself. There's Manil,
Hmm.
there's Hench Herbivore, there's Brian Turner,
Yep.
Simnet Nutrition, and there's also a load of vegan doctors as well. There's like Dr. Michael Greger. You need to get yourself in that world and immerse yourself into it just to like kind of soak up as much knowledge as possible
Hmm.
and then go in. I mean, you can go vegan straight away, but I just feel like if you want to combine it with bodybuilding to not dig yourself a hole, you want to be eating enough of the right things. And I think that's the way to do it. Don't
Hmm.
go it alone.
Yeah. That's great advice, man. Um, and then where can people find you online and connect with you?
Oh, great question. So my YouTube is Vegan Jactivists.
Yep.
And then I've also got an Instagram, which is also called Vegan Jactivists. But then I've also got my personal account as well. So on Instagram, my personal account is just my full name. So it's JoeVijay underscore fit 2015.
Cool.
Joe VJ fit underscore, sorry, Joe VJ underscore fit 2015. I can't even say my own name.
Anything else you want to shout out or anything? Any like business stuff or anything for people to check out? Any services,
Uh,
products?
no, not really. No, I'm
Cool.
more just YouTube and Instagram at the moment.
Awesome.
But yeah, we wanna bring vegan activists to life. So anyone, if you want to head over to my YouTube, that would be massively appreciated. Just to even hit the subscribe button.
Yeah.
YouTube is a really tough game, as we all know now, especially if you're new.
Social media
Not
in
not
general
new,
is fun.
but I'm like just I never got anywhere with it.
Ah,
What I will
dude.
say is that I am in terms of my prep, I am documenting it.
Mhm.
I'm editing the videos as we speak, so there will be more stuff on my prep going onto my YouTube channel. Hopefully, very soon in the next few weeks, I'll be putting all of it on there, just so you can see my experience, and little things I did, and I'll talk a bit more about it on there as well. So,
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, like I said, would love to have you back on to talk more about like veganism and all that kind of stuff, which we
hmm,
didn't have time to talk about. But I could talk to you right after we end this recording about that. That'd be great
yeah,
if you have a second.
yeah, of
But just
course.
wanted to say, man, thank you so much for coming on. Dude, it's super insightful, fun conversation. I just love talking about lifting and bodybuilding, all that kind of stuff with somebody who else is like really passionate about it. So thank you for taking the time, man. You have so many good tips and insights here. I think people will really like it. So thank you, man. And stay on to the podcast. Stay on for a little bit after this call. I just would love to, give you a proper thank you and everything and schedule something else. So thanks a lot, Joe.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Aethix Approach podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate if you gave the podcast a follow anywhere where you're listening to this and dropping a review if you liked it. Please also feel free to check out the Aethix Approach website for additional content, including coaching services, free training programs, articles, and merch, as well as the Aethix Fitness YouTube. Feel free to also check out my personal fitness Instagram, which can be found at Tofu Strong, for updates and even more content. And of course, dropping a like, commenting, and sharing is always hugely appreciated and is a quick, easy, and free way to help me producing more content like this. Thank you so much again to my Aethix Fitness community. Much love, as always, and I'll see you again in the next episode soon. Peace out.